The rain was falling in sheets so thick I could barely see the road ahead of me. My name is Iris Voss. I am 28 years old. I restore old paintings at the Greystone Gallery, a crumbling stone building wedged between a bakery and a secondhand bookshop on a street that tourists never find. My work is quiet and methodical. I take canvases that have been damaged by time, neglect, and smoke, and I make them whole again. It requires patience and a steady hand, and it leaves no room for intrusive thoughts. Except tonight, the intrusive thoughts were winning. 3 days earlier, I had walked into my fiancé's apartment with a bottle of champagne to celebrate a promotion I had just received. I found him in bed with a woman I had considered a close friend. Her name was Celeste. She had been one of my bridesmaids. I had helped her pick out the dress she wore to our engagement party. We had gone shopping together, and she had held my hand and told me how lucky I was to have found Marcus. I didn't scream when I saw them. I didn't throw the bottle. I didn't make a scene. I set the champagne down on the entryway table very carefully, and I walked out. I heard Marcus calling my name behind me, but I didn't turn around. I spent the next 3 days on my sofa, staring at the wall. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I didn't answer my phone. I replayed every moment of our relationship, searching for signs I had missed. The late nights he said he was working. The weekends he said he was visiting his mother. The way he had stopped looking at me the way he used to. The signs had all been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. On the third day, my best friend Alora called for the 7th time, and something made me pick up. Iris, thank God. Are you okay? I've been so worried. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. Have you eaten anything? I don't remember. There was a long pause. I need your help. She runs a small art brokerage, and her voice had that desperate edge it gets when a client is threatening to cancel. I have a client who commissioned a custom portfolio. It has to be delivered tonight. The address is 2247 Bellevue Ridge. It's on your side of the city. I know you're going through something terrible, but I have no one else. I said yes, not because I wanted to help, but because staying in that apartment for one more hour felt like slowly suffocating. The walls were closing in. Every corner held a memory of Marcus. The sofa where we had watched movies. The kitchen where he had cooked me dinner on our anniversary. The bedroom where he had held me and promised forever. I needed to escape. The storm hit while I was crossing the bridge. Rain hammered the roof of my ancient Honda so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. The wind shook the car, and I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. My GPS flickered twice, and then the screen went dark. I had no signal. I was alone in the middle of a storm with no idea where I was going. I turned onto a private road lined with stone pillars and iron gates, the kind of road where every house was hidden behind old trees and manicured hedgerows, the kind of road where people like me didn't belong. I squinted through the windshield, trying to read house numbers in the dark. 2247. I thought I saw it on a pillar, carved into the stone. I parked, grabbed the portfolio wrapped in brown paper, and sprinted toward the massive iron door. The rain soaked through my wool coat in seconds. My hair was plastered to my face. Water dripped from my chin and ran down my neck. I could feel it pooling inside my shoes. I knocked once. Twice? Nothing. I tried the handle. The door swung open. The warmth hit me first, a wave of heated air that wrapped around me like a blanket. Then the scent. Sandalwood and leather and something smoky, like a fireplace burning in a distant room. It was the kind of scent that made you want to close your eyes and breathe deeply. The foyer was enormous. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling like a frozen waterfall. Modern art pieces lined the walls. I recognized a Rothko and what looked like an original Basquiat. The floor was dark polished marble, and my wet shoes left footprints as I took a few hesitant steps inside. Hello? My voice echoed through the silent hall. I'm here to deliver an art portfolio. Is anyone home? No answer. I should have set the portfolio down on the marble floor and walked back out into the rain. I should have closed the door behind me and driven home and never thought about this house again. But I didn't. Because for the first time in 3 days, I felt something other than the crushing weight of emptiness. This house was warm and quiet, and it smelled like safety, and I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay in this beautiful, silent place where no one knew who I was or what had happened to me. Then I heard footsteps. Firm, measured, descending from somewhere above me. I looked up. A man was walking down the spiral staircase. He was tall, with dark hair slightly disheveled and eyes the color of winter storms. He wore a black linen shirt with the sleeves pushed up, revealing forearms that made my mouth go dry. There was a shadow of stubble along his jaw. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He looked like he had been waiting for someone. He stopped on the bottom step and looked directly at me. His gaze was intense and searching, and it made me feel like he could see right through me. "You're late." His voice was deep and rough, and it vibrated through my chest. I opened my mouth to explain that there had been a misunderstanding. He didn't let me speak. "Jade, right? The agency said you were different. They weren't exaggerating." He took a step closer, and I caught the full force of his scent. Musk and cedar and something wild that made my head spin. "Take off your coat. You're soaking wet." It was not a request. I stood there frozen in the doorway, water pooling at my feet. My mind was screaming at me to correct him, to say, "I'm not Jade. I'm not from any agency. I'm just here to deliver something for a friend." But when his eyes met mine, something inside me shifted. He looked at me like I was the most fascinating thing he had ever seen. Not like a broken woman. Not like someone to be pitied. Like someone desirable. Someone powerful. Someone worth wanting. I had not felt wanted in a very long time. Marcus had stopped looking at me that way months ago. Maybe he had never looked at me that way at all. But this stranger, this impossibly handsome man in this impossibly beautiful house, was looking at me like I was the answer to a question he had been asking his whole life. I let the coat fall to the floor. It landed with a wet thud on the marble. "I'm sorry I'm late." My voice came out low and husky and not entirely my own. A slow, dangerous smile curved his lips. "Come here." He extended his hand. I looked at that hand. Strong and steady. A bridge between who I was and who I might become. The woman who had been betrayed and broken, or the woman who could walk into a stranger's house and let herself be wanted. I placed my hand in his. The electricity was instant. His fingers closed around mine, firm and warm, and I felt the shock travel all the way up my arm. He pulled me closer. "You're trembling," he observed. "Cold or fear?" "Both." "You don't need to be afraid of me." He lifted his free hand and brushed a strand of wet hair from my face. His fingers grazed my cheek, leaving a trail of heat on my cold skin. "Here, you're safe." It was a lie, and I knew it. I was not safe from this man. But for the first time in days, I didn't care about being safe. I wanted to feel something. Anything. Even if it was dangerous. He led me through the house to a vast room with floor-to-ceiling windows and a massive stone fireplace. The flames cast flickering shadows across minimalist furniture and walls lined with books. A grand piano stood in the corner. The windows looked out over a dark expanse of trees, and beyond them, the distant lights of the city. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter and handed me one. Our fingers brushed in the exchange, and I felt a spark travel through my whole body. I took a sip. The whiskey was warm and smoky, and it burned going down. But it was a good burn. The kind that made you feel alive. "You're not what I expected," he said. "What did you expect? Someone more polished? More rehearsed?" The women the agency usually sends are very good at pretending. They know exactly what to say and how to say it. His gray eyes studied my face. "But you have something else. Something real. Something burning beneath the surface. You don't know me." "No. But I want to. Every inch. Every secret. Every scar." He set down his glass and stepped toward me. "You're late." His voice was lower now, almost a growl. "And I don't like waiting." He kissed me before I could think. It was not gentle. It was not tentative. It was hunger and need, and something that felt like recognition. Like he had been searching for something, and had finally found it. In me. His hands found my waist and pulled me against him. I could feel every hard plane of his body through the thin fabric of my blouse. I gripped his shoulders and kissed him back with a desperation that surprised me. I had been numb for 3 days, and this kiss was waking me up. This kiss was pulling me back from the edge of the abyss. He pressed me against the wall beside the fireplace. One hand tangled in my wet hair, pulling my head back gently. The other slid down my side, tracing the curve of my hip. He kissed my jaw, my neck, the sensitive spot just below my ear. He lingered there, his breath hot against my skin. I made a sound I didn't recognize, a low, involuntary moan that seemed to come from some deep, forgotten place inside me. "That's it," he murmured against my skin. "I want to hear everything you feel. Don't hide from me." I wasn't hiding. For the first time in days, I wasn't hiding anything. He lifted me easily, his hands under my thighs, and I wrapped my legs around his waist. He carried me to the leather sofa and laid me down with surprising gentleness. He positioned himself above me, his weight anchoring me to the earth. "You're beautiful," he said. "Wounded, but beautiful." Tears burned behind my eyes, not from sadness, from relief, from finally being seen by someone, even if that someone thought I was a woman named Jade. He kissed each of my eyelids, each cheek, the tip of my nose. Then he returned to my lips, and this kiss was different. Slower, deeper, like he was memorizing every detail, every texture, every sigh. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "Come with me," he whispered. I nodded. He took my hand and led me up a spiral staircase to a bedroom with enormous windows that looked out over the storm. The rain was still falling in sheets against the glass. Lightning flickered in the distance. He lit candles, one by one, until the room glowed with soft golden light. The scent of vanilla and sandalwood filled the air. He positioned himself behind me and gently moved my wet hair aside, exposing my neck. "When you're here, the world outside doesn't exist. Your worries, your pain, your past, none of it matters. There's only you and me, and what we feel right now." I closed my eyes and let his words wash over me. I had been carrying so much weight for so long. The betrayal, the humiliation, the crushing sense of not being enough. And here, in this stranger's house, I felt the weight begin to lift. He slid his hands down my arms slowly until he reached my wrists. He lifted them gently and pressed them against the wall. Something soft wrapped around my wrists. A silk tie. Too tight? No. He pressed his body against my back, and I felt every inch of him. "You're different." His lips grazed the curve of my neck. So different. His hands explored my body with torturous slowness. He unbuttoned my blouse one button at a time, his fingers brushing my skin with each release. "Who hurt you?" he asked suddenly. I trembled. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." His voice was fierce. "Who took the light from your eyes?" "My ex-fiancé." The words came out before I could stop them. "I found him with someone else 3 days ago." He went very still behind me. Then he turned me to face him and held my face in both hands. "While you're here, I won't let anything hurt you. Not even your own memories." He kissed me again. This time it was different. Slow and deep and somehow healing, like he was sealing a promise with his lips. He untied my wrists carefully and massaged where the silk had touched. "Stay with me tonight." It wasn't an order anymore. It was a request. Vulnerable. Human. I nodded. He guided me to the bed and we fell together in a tangle of sheets and candlelight and the storm raging outside. He was gentle and fierce and devastatingly present. He touched me like I was precious, like I was something rare and fragile and worth protecting. He whispered my name like a prayer, although he still thought I was Jade, and I gave myself to him completely. Morning arrived with brutal clarity. I woke to pale light streaming through the windows. He was still asleep beside me, His face relaxed and peaceful in a way it hadn't been the night before. I looked at him for a long moment, at the small scar above his eyebrow, at the way his lashes rested against his cheeks, at the hand still resting on my hip. Then panic flooded through me. What had I done? I wasn't Jade. I had lied. Or at least I had let him believe a lie. I had spent the night with a man whose name I didn't even know. I had let him touch me and hold me and whisper promises against my skin. And he thought I was someone else. I dressed quickly and quietly, my hands trembling so badly I could barely button my blouse. I didn't leave a note. I didn't look back. A black car was waiting at the entrance. A driver in a dark uniform opened the door without asking questions, as if he had been instructed in advance. I got in, and the mansion disappeared behind the trees. The driver didn't speak during the entire journey. He just drove me back to the city and dropped me at the corner near my apartment. I walked the rest of the way in the cold morning light, feeling like I had just woken from a dream. Alara called me that afternoon. "Did you deliver the portfolio?" "Yes." "Thank you so much. The client was thrilled." She paused. "Are you okay? You sound strange." "I'm fine. I just need some rest." I hung up before she could ask more questions. I didn't know it then, but I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. Not the night, the leaving. His name was Dorian Ashford. I learned that 3 weeks later. I was at the gallery restoring a 17th century landscape when Alara burst through the door waving her phone. "Have you seen this?" "Seen what?" She thrust the screen in front of my face. It was a business news article with a photograph of a man I recognized immediately. "That's him," I said before I could stop myself. "That's who?" "The man from the mansion. The one I delivered the portfolio to." Alara stared at me. "Iris, that's Dorian Ashford. He's the heir to the Ashford luxury hotel empire. He's one of the wealthiest men in the entire country. Why didn't you tell me you met him?" "I didn't know who he was. I just knocked on the wrong door." "The wrong door?" She looked at me with wide eyes. "Tell me everything." I told her. She listened without interrupting, which was unusual for Alara. When I finished, she let out a long breath. "So you spent the night with a billionaire and then ran away before he woke up?" "That's the summary, yes." "And he doesn't know your real name?" "No." "Or where you live?" "No." "Or how to find you?" "No." She was quiet for a moment. "He's been looking for you." "What do you mean?" She showed me another article. This one was from a gossip column. "Ashford heir obsessed with mystery woman who vanished." The article said that Dorian Ashford had hired private investigators. He had pulled security footage from every camera near his estate. He had offered a reward for information. He had been searching for a woman named Jade for 3 weeks. "But Jade doesn't exist," I said. "Exactly. And he knows that now. The agency confirmed she never arrived that night. He's not looking for Jade anymore. He's looking for whoever walked into his house during that storm." I felt my heart stop. "What do I do?" "You go find him. Before he tears the entire city apart looking for you." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I lied to him. Because I let him believe I was someone else. Because I spent the night with him and then disappeared. He probably hates me." "Or," Alara said, "he's completely obsessed with you. Either way, you owe him the truth." She was right. I knew she was right. But I was terrified. 3 days later, Alara showed up at my apartment with a garment bag. "There's a charity gala at the Ashford Foundation tonight. I have 2 tickets. You're coming with me." "I don't want to go to a gala." "You've barely left this apartment in 3 weeks. You need fresh air. You need to remember that the world still exists outside these walls." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're hiding. And I love you, but I'm not letting you hide anymore. Wear the navy dress. I'll pick you up at 7. She hung up before I could argue. I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to pretend I was okay. But Alara was right. I couldn't hide forever. I put on the navy dress. It was simple and elegant, with a neckline that flattered my collarbones and a skirt that fell just below my knees. I pulled my hair back in a low twist and wore the pearl earrings my mother had left me. When I looked in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. I looked like someone who had not spent the past 3 weeks falling apart. The Ashford Foundation Gala was held in a ballroom that looked like something from a painting. Crystal chandeliers dripping with light, fresh flowers and towering arrangements, 300 guests in evening attire, a string quartet playing something soft and classical. I stood near a marble column sipping champagne and trying to look like I belonged. Laura had been pulled away by a client she needed to impress. I was alone in a sea of strangers. Then I felt it, that unmistakable sensation of being watched. I turned. Dorian Ashford was walking toward me. He was wearing a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. His dark hair was swept back. His gray eyes were fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees weak. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He looked like a man who had been searching for something and had finally found it. I tried to step back, but there was nowhere to go. The column was behind me and the crowd was around me. He stopped inches away from me.
Don't even think about running. Iris, I need to talk to you. He knew my name. He had found out my name. He took my wrist gently but firmly and led me through the crowd toward a set of glass doors that opened onto a private terrace. The night was cold and the wind carried the scent of coming rain. It reminded me of that night. He released me only when we were alone. You're not Jade. No. The agency told me she never arrived. I know. Who are you? My name is Iris Voss. I'm a restoration specialist at the Greystone Gallery. I was delivering a portfolio for a friend. The GPS failed and I knocked on the wrong door. I never meant to deceive you. He stared at me for a long moment. Why didn't you correct me? Because... My voice caught in my throat. I forced myself to continue. Because you looked at me like I mattered, and I hadn't felt that in a very long time. 3 days before that night, my fiancé cheated on me with my friend. I was broken. I was empty. And when you looked at me, I felt something for the first time since it happened. I didn't want to let that go. I told him everything. About Marcus, about Celeste, about the wedding that would never happen, about the 3 days of numbness, about the storm and the wrong address, about the moment I decided to let him believe I was someone else because being someone else felt better than being the broken woman I had become. When I finished, he was silent. The wind whipped around us. The distant sound of the string quartet drifted through the glass doors. Then he stepped closer. Do you think I care that you came into my house by mistake? I stared at him. Do you think I care that your heart was broken? Do you think I care that you were running from something? The only thing that matters to me is that you made me feel something I have never felt before. Not in my entire life. And since that night, I can't stop thinking about you. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't exist without looking for you in every face I see. I felt tears sliding down my cheeks. I can't stop thinking about you either. Then stop running. He kissed me on that terrace, with the city lights spread out below us and the cold wind whipping around us. It was different from the first kiss. That one had been hunger and need and desperation. This one was something else. Something slower. Something that felt like a beginning. When we finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead against mine. Come home with me. Please. I nodded. He drove me to his penthouse in the city. It was different from the mansion. Sleeker, more modern. Floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the water. But it felt like him. It had the same scent, the same quiet elegance. We sat on his sofa and talked until the sun came up. I told him about my work at the gallery, about the paintings I restored, about how my mother had been an artist and had taught me to see color and light, about my parents, who had died in a train accident when I was 19, about the years of loneliness that made Marcus's betrayal feel like confirmation that I was not worthy of love. He told me about his childhood, about parents who were more interested in building fortunes than building a family, about learning early that control was the only way to avoid pain, about the walls he built so high that even he couldn't scale them, about the string of meaningless relationships that left him feeling more alone than ever. Until you, he said. You walked through those walls like they were made of paper. I didn't mean to. I know. That's what makes it extraordinary. You weren't trying to impress me. You weren't trying to be anyone other than who you are. You were just there, real and wounded and beautiful. And you made me feel something I had given up on ever feeling. He took my hand. I've spent 3 weeks looking for you, Iris. 3 weeks wondering if I imagined the whole thing. And when I saw you tonight, it was like I could finally breathe again. I'm still putting myself back together. I know.
And I'm not asking you to be whole. I'm asking you to let me be here while you heal. Why? Because I've been broken too. Because I know what it's like to build walls so high no one can reach you. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I need those walls anymore. He kissed me then, soft and slow and full of promises. We spent the night together again. But this time, there were no lies between us. No false names, no hidden truths. Just 2 people choosing each other. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Dorian canceled meetings and delegated responsibilities. He stayed at my small apartment more often than his penthouse. He said it felt more like a home than any place he had ever lived. I told him that was probably because the radiator made noise at night and the upstairs neighbor had a cat that sounded like it was tap dancing at 3 in the morning. He said he loved every bit of it. He learned how I took my coffee, black, with 1 sugar. He learned which books I read before bed, the Bronte sisters mostly, with some Austen thrown in. He learned that I was allergic to shellfish and that I loved the smell of jasmine. He showed up at the gallery with lunch when I worked late. He waited for me after closing, leaning against his car like he had nowhere more important to be. The first time he did it, Iris, the gallery owner, nearly dropped her glasses. "That's Dorian Ashford," she whispered. "I know. Why is he outside our gallery?" "He's waiting for me." She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head and walked away muttering something about artists and billionaires. I learned things about him too. I learned that he played piano badly, but with tremendous feeling. One night he sat at the grand piano in his penthouse and played a piece he had composed himself. It was raw and imperfect, but it was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. I learned that he collected vinyl records and could name every track on every album. He had a room in his penthouse dedicated entirely to his collection. He played me Billie Holiday and Miles Davis, and we danced barefoot on the cold marble floor. I learned that he had a scar on his shoulder from a childhood accident. He didn't like to talk about it, but he let me trace it with my fingers one night while we lay in the dark. I learned that he laughed loudly when something genuinely amused him. The first time I heard it, I was making dinner and I dropped an entire pot of pasta on the floor. He laughed so hard he had to lean against the counter. It was the most human I had ever seen him. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. We walked through the city at night when the streets were quiet. We made love in his penthouse and my tiny apartment, and once in the gallery after hours when we thought no one was watching. Iris walked in on us and nearly had a heart attack. She banned us from the gallery after dark for a month. It was not just physical. It was connection. It was recognition. It was 2 people who had been wounded finding solace in each other. One night, I woke up crying from a nightmare about Marcus. In the dream, I had walked into his apartment and found him with Celeste all over again. I had stood there frozen while they laughed at me. Dorian woke up the moment I started shaking. He pulled me against his chest and held me until I stopped crying. You are not defined by what he did to you. You are defined by how you stood up afterward. And Iris, you are standing stronger than anyone I have ever known. I love you. The words came out before I could stop them. He went very still. Then he smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face. It reached his eyes and made him look younger and lighter and happier than I had ever seen him. I love you too. He said it like he had never said it to anyone before, like the words were new and precious. So much it terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? Because I've never felt this way before. Because I don't know what I would do if I lost you. Because you walked into my life by accident and now I can't imagine it without you. I kissed him. You won't lose me. How do you know? Because I walked into your house by mistake and it was the best mistake I ever made. I'm not going anywhere. 3 months later, he asked me to move in with him. Not to the mansion where we first met. That place has too many ghosts, he said. Too many memories of me searching for you. He bought a house on the coast, a beautiful old stone house with a garden that smelled like jasmine and a view of the sea. It had a studio for my restoration work with north-facing windows and perfect light. It had a music room for his piano with acoustic panels and walls lined with his vinyl collection. "It's ours," he said. "Not mine. Ours." I said yes. We moved in on a sunny afternoon in early autumn. Alara helped me pack my apartment. She wrapped my paintings in bubble wrap and carefully boxed my books. "I can't believe you're living in a house on the coast with a billionaire who you met by knocking on the wrong door." "Neither can I."
You know this is going to be one of those stories people tell at dinner parties for the rest of your life. I know. She hugged me tight. I'm happy for you. You deserve this. After everything Marcus put you through, you deserve someone who looks at you the way Dorian looks at you. 6 months later, he proposed. We had gone back to the Ashford Foundation for another charity gala. It was the 1-year anniversary of the night we met. He didn't tell me that's why we were going. He just said he wanted to take me somewhere special. Halfway through the evening, he pulled me outside to the same terrace where we had reunited. The city lights were spread out below us. The wind was cold and carried the scent of the sea. It was exactly like that night a year ago. "Iris Voss." He knelt in front of me and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring with an emerald that matched my eyes. "You walked into my house by mistake 1 year ago tonight. You let your coat fall to the floor and you placed your hand in mine and you changed my entire life. I have loved you since that moment. I have loved you through every conversation and every walk and every quiet morning we've shared. I will love for the rest of my life if you'll let me." He opened the box. "Will you marry me?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded through my tears. He slid the ring onto my finger and it fit perfectly. He stood and pulled me into his arms and kissed me. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "I love you too. For the rest of my life. For the rest of yours. Forever." We were married 3 months later. The ceremony was small and intimate. We held it in the garden of our house on the coast, with the sea as our backdrop. Ilara was my maid of honor. Dorian's brother was his best man. 20 people total. No press, no spectacle, just family and friends and love. I wore a simple white dress. Dorian wore a dark gray suit. We wrote our own vows. "I promise," he said, holding my hands in his, "to choose you every day, even when it's hard, even when it's terrifying.
Even when the world tries to pull us apart, I promise to see you always, to hear you always, to love you always. I promise," I said, "to let you love me, to let myself be loved, to never again hide behind walls built from old wounds. I promise to be your home the way you have been mine." The officiant pronounced us husband and wife. Dorian kissed me, and the small crowd cheered. We had our first dance under a canopy of fairy lights. The string quartet from the first gala played the same Debussy piece that had been playing the night we met. "This is perfect," I whispered. "Not yet," he said, "but we have the rest of our lives to get there." That was 3 years ago. We have a daughter now. Her name is Lyra. She has her father's gray eyes and my stubbornness. She's 2 years old and she already loves to paint. Dorian set up a tiny easel in my studio so she can work beside me. He still looks at me like I'm the most fascinating thing he's ever seen. He still touches me like he can't believe I'm real. He still whispers my name in the dark like a prayer. We built a life together from a mistake, a wrong address, a storm, a lie that became the truth. Sometimes I think about that night, about the moment I let my coat fall to the floor, about the moment I placed my hand in his. I could have corrected him. I could have walked away. I could have never known what it felt like to be truly seen by someone. But I didn't. I stayed. And it was the best decision I ever made.